Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's date is Monday the 18th of May 2026, the year of green wicks and BSV Terranode in the mix. Branch of threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai or your post put on chain. Let's see what we've got today. So we're going to continue with this article from the Book of Daniel section on this. There we go, that we got to yesterday. We'll have a quick look at the figures to see what's up with what is going down, because it's getting very juicy. Look at that. Bitcoin now with 65% of the overall transaction volume on the entire market. Loving that. We'll have a look at Kurt's profile. Look at that. His subscribers are now overtaken mine. 7,860. And his latest video here, the Jeffrey Epstein funded everyone, has got 35,000 views. Although it's only a 3-minute video. It seems like Jeffrey Epstein seems to be the way to go forward to get views. Think I could do one myself. Have a nice fancy AI generated cover like that. Be pretty good. We've got some 365 days of Bitcoin history, discussions on the Bitcoin Pizza Day organization. And then we'll finish with the Kellen Schweller countdown. Right, let's get into it.
Craig says he's Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. He's acclaiming his legacy, you'll surely see.
All right, here we go. So let's start off with this one then. So the Book of Daniel. In the biblical text of the Book of Daniel, Daniel 2, written 604 BCE, where Daniel interprets Nebuchadnezzar's dream, he describes a giant that seems to mirror the historical development of money. Its feet are partly made of iron and clay, its legs of iron, belly and thighs of bronze, its chest and arms of silver, and lastly its head made of gold. To any economist, the belly and thighs of bronze would represent the Roman Empire, the chest and arms of silver would represent the city of London, and finally the head made of gold would represent the Federal Reserve. The dream concludes when Daniel says, "You watched while a stone was cut without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found, and the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." Cut without hands. Interestingly, the interpretation of a stone being cut without hands indicates the absence of human intervention and might therefore be a new form of commodity that could completely replace the use of gold and silver in the modern day financial system. This would explain the metaphor of the gold and silver becoming like chaff from the threshing floors in summer and being carried away in the wind so that no trace of them was found. The last line is very telling when it says, "And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." Could this be a metaphor for a hard, indestructible form of new money that fills the whole earth? More on this later. Inflation, the problem. Ultimately, it's an inflationary financial system that causes all the world's social problems. This is because if the supply of the medium of exchange being used continues to expand in comparison to the supply of goods and services in the economy, the demand for the medium of exchange becomes less and less as it becomes more abundant. Therefore, the cost of the goods and services will appear to increase in their value comparatively. This is unless their own supply keeps pace with the expansion rate of the medium of exchange being used, which is unlikely since most goods and services are consumables, whereas a medium of exchange cannot be and therefore will continue to expand at a faster pace. If the medium of exchange being used does result in the development of an inflationary financial system, the economy will quickly become toxic as producers and manufacturers compete against one another for market share by producing cheaper and cheaper, shoddier products. Eventually, corners will be cut in production lines, quality control would reduce, and safety concerns would start to be overlooked, leading to a demoralized, demotivated workforce and the erosion of ethics in society as a whole. This would result in a negative cultural change in society and rapid decline. Companies would have to purposely build in obsolescence to their products to create repeat custom, causing extreme pressure on environmental resources and massive amounts of unnecessary waste. The survival of businesses. If the medium of exchange circulating in the economy is continually declining in its value due to its inflationary supply, the significantly larger companies, which often control the economy's essential base products, will increase their prices to produce profits and larger dividend payments to their shareholders. This then has a knock-on effect for the rest of the economy, as smaller businesses, at the mercy of their larger suppliers, have to increase their prices simply to cover their cost base. Unless a business can either increase their prices in line with inflation or somehow reduce their overheads, they are constantly fighting an uphill battle to stay profitable and in business, and will ultimately succumb to either going bust and taken into receivership by the bank, or being bought out by an expansionist competitor that can take advantage of economies of scale. Francisco Pizarro, a case study. Francisco Pizarro was a Spanish conquistador, best known for his expeditions that led to the Spanish conquest of the Inca Empire. Francisco Pizarro instigated the Battle of Cacamara in 1532, enslaved the Incas and used their slave labour to extract the gold from the Americas and bring it back to Spain. This made Spain the richest country in the world at the time. However, Spain's wealth and riches didn't last long, since all that happened, on a very practical level, was an introduction of excessive amount of gold and silver into Spain's economy, chasing the same number of goods and services. Spain quickly went on to experience hyperinflation and economic collapse. A nation of shopkeepers. In comparison to Spain's tale of economic woe, London went on to become a nation of shopkeepers, and the British Empire expanded into the empire upon which the sun never sets. This wasn't due to the amount of money the empire had, it was due to its access to resources. The conclusion here is that access to resources is what generates wealth and contributes to overall increased quality of life. Therefore, it's finding an economically incentivized method that will allow small businesses to survive and thrive, that will rejuvenate an economy. It's choice that gives us freedom. Without choice, we have no freedom. What's required for a positive economy? If a medium of exchange were to be introduced into an economy that was fixed in its supply and continually divisible, as opposed to inflated, then its effects would also counter the negative effects of inflation. Using a medium of exchange that is fixed means that businesses and corporations start to compete directly for its value rather than its supply. So rather than compete against their market competitors, making goods cheaper and cheaper and sacrificing quality for cost production, they start to compete for the value of the asset in the consumer's pocket by providing best value for money. The value for money in this case will be best value long term, meaning less waste and higher quality products that last longer. This is because the asset they want is fixed in its supply, and therefore the sooner they get it, the better value they'll receive from it, since its value is increasing over time. The issue then becomes how to encourage consumers to part with this asset that is increasing in value, since they will be less inclined to spend, as the longer they hold on to it, the more purchasing power they'll gain. However, the flip side to this is that since the consumer is accruing more purchasing power from its value increase, they become more willing to spend, since they accrued the purchasing power for free in the first place. Consumers will experience a sensation of abundance and no longer feel as though they are spending their hard-earned sweat equity. The effects of a positive medium of exchange. The effects of a divisible positive medium of exchange that is fixed in its supply are twofold. First, it speeds up the economy and encourages innovation, as manufacturers race to bring better quality products to market to receive a better return on investment on the asset they receive as a payment. A positive economy would not require consumable products, since businesses can rely on the ever-increasing value of the medium of exchange to sustain them. Entrepreneurs and inventors would race to bring the best value products and creations to market, knowing they were no longer bounded by a toxic economy requiring repeat custom. Second, consumers are more willing to spend as they experience an increase in their available purchasing power. However, consumers would also start to develop more awareness for the quality of the item they were purchasing due to the consideration of the value exchange. This would likely raise their overall vibration and level of consciousness. Loving that bit. Our current financial situation. In 1985, when Robert Ballard first discovered the wreck of Titanic that reportedly sunk on the evening of 15th of April 1912 after colliding with an iceberg, they uncovered inconsistencies with its design. The inconsistencies were with the number of portholes, the windows on B deck, the extended bridge wings, and its name. Where the ship name had been engraved into its bow, there now appeared to be iron plates that had been riveted on, concealing each engraved letter. Over the course of time, 2 of the iron plates had rusted off and exposed the letters beneath. The exposed engraved letters found were M and P, which are consistent with its sister ship, the Olympic. All the other design inconsistencies with Titanic also matched Olympic. The Olympic had been involved in a major collision with HMS Hawke on the 20th of September 1911, and its propeller shaft had been bent, meaning an economic write-off for a ship. There are no records that the Olympic was ever repaired. The above findings are significant because on board the ship that sank were the three very powerful main objectors to J.D. Rockefeller's and J.P. Morgan's proposal for a central bank in the United States. These objectors were John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. J.P. Morgan and 50 of his friends cancelled their trip on Titanic's maiden voyage at the last minute, and an overinflated insurance policy had been taken out on the ship before it departed. If there was a criminal conspiracy involved in the sinking of the ship, it means that there is a high probability that these criminals were also involved in the creation of the Federal Reserve and therefore have a controlling influence over its operations. Oof! Oof! And next we go on to the world's gold heists. Looking forward to that. So have a quick look at the figures then. So CoinDance are not reporting these figures. They're also not reporting the block sizes. But they are saying that it's 16,000 times cheaper to transact on Bitcoin than Gregcoin. It's currently, you're mining Bitcoin at a 16.9% comparable loss. But Bitcoin miners aren't ever going to swap seats because they know what they're mining. Let's have a look at the politics in the pie charts then. Global hash rate 7 days, 24 hours. Gregcoin hash rate other miners 8.3. Bcrash other miners 18.06. Fisher Price Cash software DMCC's got 80% of the hash rate. And we'll have to have a look at the figures on what's on chain. Mining stats 24 hours. Mining Dutch in the lead 20.3. Tal 19.1, Coof 13.3, QD-Link 12.1, SA100 11.46, Gorilla Pool 10%, Cryptex 5.1, Tal Terranode 3.8, Molepool 3.8, and what's this new one? Bit of Sin 0.64. Well, that's a new one. Hey, that's a funny one. Let's have a look at the overall transaction volume. 5.9 million transactions. Cross-reference that with BitInfo charts here. Yep, 5.9 million transactions, representing 64% of the entire market. Good grief, that's more than a $2 trillion combined market there, which includes BTC, Ethereum, XRP, and Litecoin. Amazing. Overall market is $2.4 trillion. Keep an eye on the graphs on the right hand side as we scroll down. Oof, what happened to BCH there? Look at that. USDC tailing off, USDT tailing off. BTC on its way down, but BCH off a cliff. That's not good, is it? DAI off a cliff there. All the other coins looking very similar there. The market going down. A few odd shit coins going the opposite way. But look at that. Look at the market trend. Mostly downwards there. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Yeah, trending down, but BCH dropped off a cliff. Overall market cap $302 million. It's nothing. It's nothing. Right, let's have a look at Kurt's channel here. Check it out. Check it out. Well, I think he had what? 2,000 to 3,000 the other day. Suddenly jumped up to 7.8. I wonder if this might be because I gave it a mention. Either way, cracking result there for Kurt. That's great. 7.8, more than me now. That didn't take long. His video here. Look at this. Jeffrey Epstein funded everyone in Bitcoin. Look at that. 37,000 views just 2 days ago. That's massive. Right, we'll have to see where my section is on Jeffrey Epstein in there. I think it's quite a way down. We might get to on the third show, I think. There we go. Why did Jeffrey Epstein get involved in Bitcoin? It's all there. It's all there. It's all there. Love it. Right, some 365 days of Bitcoin history. Just one post here. And the 18th of May 2010, there were discussions for the offer to buy pizza. And look at that. We've got it here. 18th of May. Yeah, 18th of May. This was the first one. Oh, there we go. Look, Laszlo Hennig said, I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoin for a couple of pizzas. Like maybe 2 large ones, so I have some left over for the next day. I like having leftover pizza to nibble on later. You can make the pizza yourself and bring it to my house, or order it for me from a delivery place. But what I'm aiming for is getting food delivered in exchange for Bitcoins where I don't have to order or prepare it myself. Kind of like ordering a breakfast platter at a hotel or something. They just bring you something to eat and you're happy. I like things like onions, peppers, sausage, mushrooms, tomatoes, pepperoni, etc. Just standard stuff, no weird fish toppings or anything like that. I also just like regular cheese pizzas, which may be cheaper to prepare or otherwise acquire. If you're interested, please let me know. We can work out a deal. Thanks, Laszlo. And he got a reply saying, which country do you live in? And then he gave his address there. I said 10,000, that's quite a bit. You could sell those. I've just given the link to bitcoinmarket.com for $41 right now. Good luck on getting your free pizza. Or 10,000 Bitcoin for $41. And someone here said, I'll buy you I'll buy Domino's for you if I knew how to pay from Europe. Hey, that's ace. He said, so nobody wants to buy me pizza. Is the Bitcoin amount I'm offering too low? It was ended up being Jeremy Sturdivant who bought him the pizzas in the end. I wonder what profile he had. Oh, look, they even had New Liberty Standard senior member there. That must have been Joseph Van Perling. Now that pizza looks delicious. Adorable kid. There we go. Loving that. So we are now day 242 of the Kellerschwiller Countdown. With it being the 18th of May, when's it going to finish? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. It's going to be absolutely epic. So until then, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
I understand.
Do you?
Do you? This is it. I'm telling you, this is it.
The king still has one more move.